discussed about learning skills and self-learning material. And as you all know, the topic of today's discussion is about role and competencies of distance and online teachers and counselors. The resource person for today's session is Dr. Santosh Panda, Professor Dr. Santosh Panda, and I'm delighted to formally introduce and welcome him for this session. Dr. Panda is a PhD in education and a professor of distance education since 1997 and is the former director at the Staff Training and Research Institute of Distance Education, the Indira Gandhi National Open University in India. He has an illustrious career of 35 years in teaching, research, and academic administration at university level. In the past, he has been the chairperson of National Council for Teacher Education, a statutory national regulator of Government of India. He was a senior Fulbright postdoctoral scholar at the University of New Mexico in the United States of America. He was also the director of the Association of Indian Universities, New Delhi, and the director of Center for Flexible and Distance Learning of the University of South Pacific, Fiji. He is also the founding director of Inter-University Consortium for ICT, IGNO. He was the visiting professor of University of London, Manchester Metropolitan University, University of New Mexico, Beijing Normal University, and adjunct professor at the University of Maryland in the USA. Dr. Panda has presented keynote addresses, conference papers, and conducted workshops in above 25 countries and has delivered convocation addresses at 5 different universities. His teaching, research, and consulting areas include teacher education, distance education, online education, open educational resources, massive open online courses, accreditation, and quality education in higher education, program evaluation, and open schooling. He has provided consulting services for various international organizations like the Asian Development Bank, British Council, Commonwealth of Learning, Ford Foundation, UNDP, UNESCO, World Bank, the Government of China, Nepal, Lesotho, Nigeria, and the Government of India. He chairs several national committees and is also members of several regulatory and policy-making bodies at national and international level. He is the founder editor of the Staff and Educational Development International Research Journal and the founder chief editor of the Indian Journal of Open Learning. And he is also associated as editor or editorial board member of a dozen of prestigious refereed international journals. He has published 48 research papers in refereed journals internationally, 44 book chapters, 19 books, 34 conference papers, and has delivered 20 keynotes and convocation addresses. His popular books include Planning and Management in Distance Education, published by Routledge, London, and Economics of Distance and Online Learning, published by Routledge, New York. If I keep on discussing his academic credentials, probably I'll exceed the time allocated for this talk. So without any further delay, I invite and I request Professor Panda to take over this session and deliver his talk. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ansuman. Professor Panda joined before, but due to some connectivity problem, he left this session. But he will join back us immediate effect. He is struggling with that. So, so far he will join with us. In between, let us listen to our participants, just kind of discussion in this. I have seen many posting and on forum and discussing in the forum. Let us have discussion. Dr. Abhilash Nayak with us, and Asim with us, Anshuman with us. Let us. You can unmute your mic. Anyone wants to ask any questions relating to the current module or before any one of module. If you want to ask anything and discuss anything, your concerns, your queries or questions, or any motivating words for other participants as well. So you just unmute your mic and interact with us. Anyone?
Yes, you can share your experience and you can share your feedback with us. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good morning, sir. My name is Kumudini Mishra. I am academic counselor for OSOU, sociology specialization, and I'm calling from Kalahandi, the government college. I look into the academic counseling for the master's and bachelor's program. It's been a very good learning experience. This is the third live session I am attending. And also the online materials are really helpful, and I have also tried to understand that open learning education system at the present, in the current scenario, it has a lot of scope also for learners across India and outside this country also. I have few queries related to the forums, the online materials and all. I was trying to actually, the week 1, week 2, week 3, the quizzes and all, I've taken 2 quizzes. I wanted to understand how could I download the materials. This was a query I tried to download, but I couldn't. Today's session also, I think it will be shared in the forum, like the earlier, the 2. So this was one of my query.
Yeah, thank you, Kumudini, for your technical question. That is, you can easily download these videos and PDFs. If you will click on the PDF, you can immediately download it to your system. Click on the PDF, it will be immediately download to your system. This is number 1. Okay. Number 2, while you are clicking on the videos, you just take the link, and that is YouTube, available in the YouTube. So these videos you can take the link and use accordingly wherever you want to. And at the same time, YouTube downloader, if you have, you can take this link, which will be the address bar, and you can convert using this YouTube downloader, so you can able to download.
Right, sir. Thank you. Even for the online classes, like every Sunday, we are scheduling the classes.
Absolutely. So all these are also available in the platform. Yeah.
Thank you. Please. Thank you so much, sir.
Anyone, any other? Please just unmute your mic and ask your question.
Good morning, sir.
I just wanted to request all of you to do one thing. Good morning, Dr. Paninde. Good morning, Dr. Jana, and all my participants here. I have been noticing that many of the participants, they are just posting their own posts, but they are not responding to the posts given by others. That's number 1. Number 2, you must have seen that there is a button for like, and on most of the forums, which are very good postings, I don't see any likes there. So I am forced to put a like there because I can't resist myself from doing it. That's number 1. Number two, as Dr. Malika put in the announcement day before yesterday, we have made a request to the good, active and effective participants to make small videos of 3 to 5 minutes of any of the topics of their choice and send it to me. Yeah, to Dr. Monica, to Dr. Panigraya, Dr. Jana, anyone of us. Because we are planning to get them scrutinized by a committee, and we are planning to use these resources as the additional resources when we launch this MOOC in the future cycles. Thank you very much. Happy learning.
Thank you, Dr. Nayak, and this is really very good opportunity for all the participants. Even if Indian participants and non-Indian participants from different countries, most of the cases we have given the small examples of the Indian context. However, I am looking for the international context. If any of our participants, because I know that participants from Africa, participants from Canada, participants from Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Malaysia, and other countries we have. So if you people can share your experiences in ODL system, particularly in the relating to the counseling or any kind of things which can be your country practice and policy is practicing. So if you prepare your own video, and you can send us along with your PPT or whatever may be. If you'll send your video only, also if your video is selected, then we will get back to you, and your video will be edited accordingly, and it will be helpful for your colleagues, those who will be attending in the second cycle. So this is good opportunity for everyone. So if anyone wants to ask any question, please unmute your mic and ask us. Yeah. Jacqueline, please unmute your mic.
Sir. Good morning. I'm Jacqueline from Karatina University in Kenya. I'm an academic registrar. Thank you for this opportunity to go through this course. It's a very interesting course. I'm learning a lot. I had a simple question that I had already posted on the chat, but I seem not to have gotten any feedback. And my question was related to forums. I seem not to understand the requirement of forum. When you talk of 3 forums, what do you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. This is minimum criteria we have keep in for the certification. Absolutely, forum, it means you can create 1 forum or 3 forums, all stretch up on the 4 weeks. Number 1. Number 2, you can participate in the forum, replying to other discussion points. So altogether 3 minimum we have keep in for the certification purpose. But I have seen Jacqueline and other people, they are attending and participating in the discussion, developing multiple forum discussion points, using the general forum as well as specific lecture specific forums. So they are creating all these things, and I have seen Professor Panda joined back us. Morning he has joined, and due to the technical problem, he just time while left, and now he joined us. And without further delay, we can take your questions with his presentation. Further delay, we can move to Professor Panda. Hello, Professor Panda.
Video nahi aa raha. Can you see me?
Yeah, Professor Panda, I can able to see you.
I'm very sorry. There was some internet problem.
Yeah, I understand the technical problem is there. And now over to you, sir. We have already preliminarily started with you and introduced you to these participants. However, you can just introduce yourself for 2-3 sentences and move forward. All yours, sir.
You see, you can use my PowerPoint there. because
sure.
because my laptop is not working, so I'm connecting through mobile.
Sure. I request Asim, please share Professor Panda's PowerPoint.
Yes, sir. Just a minute.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Panda. After so many struggling, you are joining back with us, and I'm really happy to see you in this crisis. And people are very much interesting to listen to you. And my colleague Asim from Odisha State Open University, he is operating your slides, and you have, sir, 30 minutes of time for your presentation, and another 10-15 minutes we can take questions, and 30 minutes you can go ahead with another 5 minutes for grace where you can just move for your presentation, and followed by your presentation we will take few questions to reflect to our participants. Over to you, sir.
So I will always say next, you go to the next PowerPoint, okay? So now it is next. So friends, welcome to this presentation. Next, I will basically talk about the competencies and roles of counselors in this changing scenario. Scenario is changing. Earlier we had correspondence, then distance education, then open education. Then there was a convergence, as you see in the PowerPoint. There was a convergence. And convergence has brought in all the three technologies together: broadcasting, telecommunications, and computing. And today, your mobile has all the three put together. So therefore, there is a seamless 24/7 convergence. And therefore, we are into what is called a blended learning. The American concept of blended learning, combining face-to-face and online, is a very rudimentary structurally, organizationally defined blended learning. But blending, as we have been doing, is concerned with both curriculum, teaching learning, assessment strategies, delivery strategies, media integration, and blending up so many factors within that. So next. So we, as you can see that face-to-face, distance, online, blending. All the four, whatever I will talk about, all the four are applicable to them. But as distance teachers, instructors, trainers, counselors, tutors, we all need to be acquainted with some of the fundamentals, foundational things that I will talk about. And therefore, it becomes easy for us today at COVID time and post-COVID also, because the UGC, the entire regulation is now moving towards blending. Already 20% of the credit hours in the face-to-face system by UGC is offered through SWAYAM as blending. So today, no degree is a full-time face-to-face degree, because every degree could include 20% online. So therefore, and today, post-COVID and post-COVID, I'm pretty sure that the regulations are going to change, which will bring in more of blended learning. And today, all kinds of blending is possible. Everybody is free to do that. But then there will be some regulations tomorrow when the COVID subsides down, that what kind of blending we will be actually moving into. And the National Education Policy 2020 talks about a whole lot of blending. It doesn't particularly talk about open distance learning per se, but a whole lot of blending in which open distance learning will take the lead. So as you see on your screen, that I have listed 5 functions which are critical and which are common to face-to-face, distance, online, blended, because they are talking about teaching and learning. And we have to see as curriculum designers, instructional designers, teachers dealing with teaching, learning, and assessment, the media people, counselors and tutors, and everybody needs to appreciate these 5 functions, which are common to all kinds of learning, except that the delivery strategy and the integration of media would change. The first point is transmission of information, how we would like to present that information. Face-to-face in classroom, contiguous situation, which is synchronous. Right now, Zooming is also synchronous. We are at the same point of time, real time. And distance learning would be through self-learning material and study center counseling and so on and so forth. Online will be exclusively online, that I will talk about. And blending will depend on what kind of blending we are doing. So without saying much about blending, because I'll talk about blending a little later. So transmission of information is the first important point that we have to decide in our design, that how we are going to transmit that information, including the possibility of inclusion of open education resources. If they are suitable, they could also be included. The second is action and interaction, because in teaching learning, interaction is very important. Unless there is an interaction, certainly there is something is missing out, because individual construction of meaning and then the discussion and the group negotiation of meaning, both are equally important. Face-to-face, they say that it becomes easier to do that, but it hardly happens. In distance learning, at the study center, most probably it happens, I understand. But in online learning, certainly it is possible, and blending would extend all the three, face-to-face, distance, and online, to a new formulation. And therefore, this is very much possible. Free collaboration, that how we would like to share collaboration of many assignments, projects, group projects, and collaboration of ideas, interaction, discussion, and so on and so forth. Reflection is very important, that what provision that we are making for students to reflect, because this is an important consideration which contributes to quality of learning. And finally, that how to ensure that the students have assimilated the new UGC guidelines about examination, talks about doing away with the traditional system of assessment and examination to bring in more formative and in summative, to diversify the rubric of assessment, the assessment rubric, such that higher order learning and creative learning and critical thinking, problem solving, they get reflected in the examination system. My experience tells me that nationally, otherwise as a national open university, we are faltering on this, and we need to diversify this basket. Next. So what is important today is that we are talking about internationally now, because of COVID, this is coming to the fore most importantly and very critically and openly. The National Education Policy 2020 talks about the 21st century skills. What are these? In the choice-based credit system, there were 4 kinds of skills, competencies that needed to be built into, integrated. These 4 types are concerned with the discipline core, the interdisciplinary competencies, the social and life skills and happiness skills, and finally, professional employability, vocational or technical skills. So these 4 skills need to be combined, and they're already combined in the choice-based credit system, and the national policy says that we will take forward CBCS in a much more refined formulation. The 21st skills, that competencies that you see, we need to look into whether our curriculum reflects these skills more categorically. We need to define these in terms of learning outcomes, and each learning outcome has to configure with what is called activities, which can, including interaction and collaboration activities, which can reflect the learning outcomes in these areas. First, the discipline skills. 2, the employability skills. 3, the social and life skills and happiness skills, which is very important, which is now prominent. National policy talks about the foundational courses, liberal arts foundational courses, which should be compulsory across the board, including medical engineering, and everybody has to study social life skills and happiness skills. I have no time to talk much about this. For instance, the 4-year undergraduate program of the University of Delhi built in 2 semesters more into the curriculum, about a semester about social life and skills and happiness skills, and another semester which is about research skills. Both of these skills, vis-a-vis the 4-year undergraduate program the National Education Policy has talked about, and it is also talking about integration. In teacher education, for instance, in 2014 regulation, when I was chairperson, we brought to the national forum the integrated teacher education program, which almost 1,000 plus institutions implemented out of about 19,000 institutions in the country. We have given 5 years to implement. Now the national policy is particularly talking about a 5-year or a 4-year integrated program. Technology skills, which is very important, and without this, it is not possible. Both teachers and students need to get into that. But then the technology skills will have value provided we have a system of integrating technology into teaching learning. More particularly, I underline integrating technology into teaching learning. Self-regulative and metacognitive skills, meaning thereby that which is not happening right from schooling to college and university, which is not happening. But that is that facilitating students to develop their self-study skills and to develop the ability to identify their own competence and then use themselves. They will be regulating their learning. We are simply talking about this. We are not actually doing. It's not happening from the school stage. And therefore, in college and university, it becomes very difficult to deal with that. This is the most important skill. And finally, which UNESCO talked about long back, the UNESCO Commission, the learning to learn skills. Are we building within the curriculum the learning to learn skills? Particularly not, whether it is face-to-face, distance, online, or blended. Next. So the competencies that we are talking about, the employability competencies, which could be generic or which could be sector specific. When we say sector specific, then the National Skill Qualifications Framework comes into picture. I will show a PowerPoint about the framework, and the framework is very important. The second point I have listed is that fulfilling the required criteria for getting a job versus developmental ability of nurturing attributes of future innovation and progress. The second point is very important. The second alternative in the second point is important. Most probably we are trying to do developing competencies for a job. The National Education Policy is doing away with this. It simply says that we have to develop a human being as a human being with full competencies as required as the 21st century competency. The students as graduates and then will be in a better position to find out their own employment. And therefore, a holistic development is necessary rather than aiming at a particular competency or particular professional or job skills or vocational education and training. Next. So the National Skill Qualification Framework standards that I have listed, they are level 5, 6, and 7, which is for a 3-year undergraduate program. If it is going to be a 4-year undergraduate program, the competencies need to be extended, and the National Skill Qualifications Framework would also get modified. So it talks about that what knowledge, what core skills, and what professional skills, which will be basically learning outcomes, professional skills which should be visible. These 3 levels of skills need to be built into a 3-year undergraduate program based on the National Skill Qualification Standards. And when we talk about a particular job or particular profession, there are professional skills defined. They are called the Sector Skills Councils. And the Sector Skills Councils need to pull up their socks, I would say, that you must read the Sada Committee report and the Santosh Mehrotra Committee report of late. And Dr. Panigra is there. We developed a framework vis-a-vis the SEMCA, the integration of the competencies, skills, employability skills into the higher education programs. Almost 45 million students, they graduate every year, and largely without an employability skills. So unemployment increases. And therefore, is there a possibility that we can vertically as well as horizontally integrate the skill programs, starting from the ITIs, polytechnics, to diploma in engineering, and now we have skills universities, state and national skills universities. National education policy very particularly talks about that. Please go through that, both horizontal as well as vertical integration. Next. So what is coming up finally, as you see, a very simple PowerPoint, but it's very difficult to do because the whole lot of curriculum, teaching, learning, media, assessment strategies, both formative, summative, they all need to be integrated into this formulation. The formulation talks about theory, practicum, and intensive. In 2014 regulation of teacher education at NCT, when I was chairperson, I defined curriculum in terms of all the three. And therefore, so far internship is concerned, in a B.Ed program, which got extended to 2 years, fortunately, now it is a 4-year integrated program. In that case also in 2014, it was 4 years, 3 years undergraduate, 2 years B.Ed, 5 years minus 1 year, which was a concession by the UGC that we could do through a gazette notification, 4 years program of 5 years credit hours to be completed in 4 years. We define theory, practicum, intensive. We will not teach any theory paper which doesn't involve a practicum. So therefore, every course in the choice-based credit system, every course is divided between theory and practice. And there is an internship built into that. These three need to be reflected in the curriculum and our teaching, learning, and our study center, learning center, hands-on experience, and so on and so forth, and formative and summative evaluation. Next is a PowerPoint about your choice-based credit system, which talks about the discipline core. And this discipline core is traced by both school education and higher education by the National Education Policy 2020, that discipline core. And beyond discipline core, we should not add more theories into that. That's what the policy says, and that which is true, that conceptually we're burdening students much more, and practically the application part we are reducing. And therefore, it could be a formulation of 50-50, the 50 theory, 50 practicum. We will read that which we can apply. That's precisely the point. There's a Chinese saying in a Confucius time, which says that I hear and I forget, and I do, therefore I learn. So therefore, the Chinese formulation is to be taken very seriously, that I have to learn when I do things myself. So therefore, discipline core, elective, which is basically interdisciplinary, including generic elective, and foundation, which is 21st century skills plus vocational and professional skills. Next, in the curriculum formulation that you see on the PowerPoint, next please, in the curriculum formulation that you see in the PowerPoint, this is a very rudimentary but very powerful curriculum formulation that we try to implement at IGNOU. I don't know to what extent these have been really assimilated by our faculty, actual implementation of curriculum design and translating into that action. Design has no meaning unless it is translated into action, including our interaction at the study centers and work centers and practical centers. So therefore, it talks about, and basically the national education, this is a formulation that we did almost 25 years back, which IGNOU is largely following, but the National Education Policy is talking about this, and the University Grants Commission has brought in some reforms when Professor Beth Prakash was chairperson. The choice-based credit system, outcome-based learning, and the so-called the API system that has come. But basically the outcome-based learning and the choice-based credit system and the graduate attributes. You read the regulation of the University Grants Commission, it talks about that we need to bring in graduate attributes. So learning experiences, graduate attributes, making courses as modular, credit-based. They define credit in a one semester about 12 to 14 weeks. One credit is 1 hour of study, and whereas practicum is 2 hours, and 15 hours is a credit. In distance learning, they've given us leverage, fortunately, to continue our 1 credit as 30 student study hours. Both are the same when you really calculate. I don't know, the open universities are struggling hard to convert into choice-based credit system. I don't know what problem they are facing. But then learning outcomes become very important that you see in the PowerPoint. Then provisions for teaching, learning, and media, which can build in self-regulated learning and higher order metacognitive learning, and which is translated into practice, that there must be application of what is being learned, which is basically not happening. In face-to-face, it is largely lecture-based. Some places the practical is happening, they're translating into practice. And in distance learning, it is almost becoming more theoretical, unless it is an engineering course or medical course or surgery course or cardiology or computing and so on and so forth. The assessment rubric, what is written there is very important, that it has to be comprehensive and continuous. You can recall the CCE, Continuous Comprehensive Evaluation of the School Sector of the CBSE, which got dismantled. But again, this needs to be reintroduced vis-a-vis the National Education Policy. What I've written there is it had to be authentic. Friends, what I'm trying to stress, as counselors, tutors, and teachers, we need to appreciate, and trainers, we need to appreciate that authenticity is very important. That I will learn a theory when authentically I can apply that into practice in my own context. Second, my assessment has to be based on authentic assessment. It cannot be a hypothetical assessment, recall something and analyze something, critically appreciate something. That's all fine. But I must give authentic tasks to solve problems. That should be assessment. That's not happening. And finally, the authentic tasks must be built into in terms of activities relating to each of the learning outcomes. So that's what the National Education Policy says. That's what SEMCA has been promoting for a long time. And that's what we at IGNOU at least try to do that. But it depends on the faculty understanding of what exactly they are doing. So design, I repeat, has no meaning unless it gets translated into a whole lot of people who are involved in distance education. And therefore, we need to bring in cases, workshops, and especially portfolios, which the National Education Policy talks about next. In the learning pyramid that you see, which simply says, it's a visual representation I borrowed, I've given the source. It simply says that lecturing, most probably we forget. When we read, we remember 10%. Audiovisual, 20%. Demonstration, when something is shown to us, 30%. When we engage discussion among ourselves, that's what online learning would do much better, and classroom learning is supposed to do, 50%. Practically doing ourselves beyond discussion, 75%. And when we, after doing, we are given a responsibility that you make a presentation and you teach, we remember 90%. So you can see how our curriculum and teaching learning need to be geared towards this, which exactly is not the case now. Next. We simply say in the next PowerPoint that our learning is basically passive. And if we have to get into active learning, which is activity-based, collaborative, discussion-based, interactive learning. You can examine your distance learning, whether it is happening like that or not. You can examine that next. So the learning outcomes, as you know, the traditional books, Bloom's taxonomy, the evaluation has become now creativity. So the refined Bloom's taxonomy, which simply talks about starting, we need to express learning outcomes in terms of at the lowest level of gathering information and knowledge, understanding, applying that and analyzing, synthesizing a few case studies, and finally evaluating a particular situation. If a situation is given to us, you are given the task that you evaluate this, comment on this, justify this. We simply justify theoretically without really looking into the application of that, and application in context. Application, how many? Application in context, which is not happening. We are not used to this kind of assessment. This needs a holistic transformation insofar as quality in higher education is concerned. Next. The Bloom's taxonomy that you see, the PowerPoint is with you, and you can, so these are the words that we explain, express the learning outcomes at the knowledge level, starting from there up to evaluation and a creativity level. The next PowerPoint says that learning outcomes could be based on what is called a SMART definition. Next PowerPoint, please. SMART definition. SMART, S for specific. We have to be very specific in terms of our learning outcome. M, which has to be very meaningful. That means it must be relating to certain context, certain idea. It cannot be abstract. 3, it has to be appropriate to the levels of ability that we are trying to define in terms of learning outcome. Are realistic, that they must be achievable. We cannot define a learning outcome that we cannot achieve. We should not be overambitious in doing that. And finally, testable, that whatever we provide as a learning outcome, we must be theoretically, practically, abstract, concrete in whatever oral presentation or written presentation or group discussion, we must be able to assess that. That's what the simple formulation of a learning outcome. The next PowerPoint shows that our old boss, Sir John Daniel, next PowerPoint, please. The Sir John Daniel talked about, which is relevant today very much. He talked about that we must make a decision between an independent study and interaction. He talked about 50-50 formulation, that to what extent you can leave everything for the students, provided there is a scaffolding, there is a mentoring, there is a helping extended by the teachers or the mentors. But besides that, the students must have the ability to do self-study. That's what I refer to as self-regulated learning, which is not happening. We assume that the students will be able to study. We do not facilitate them how to study. That's precisely the point. By simply providing a document that how to study doesn't make any difference, doesn't make any sense. We need to develop that ability and build in those skills into our handbooks and in our curriculum outputs in terms of self-learning materials, audio, video, online, and so on and so forth. So we need to make a balance to what extent we can leave everything to the students for independent study, and to what extent we can bring them back for an introduction, bring them back to study center, or maybe online. Online, it becomes easy. Study center, especially at COVID, it becomes very difficult. I will move fast. I will not get into next PowerPoint, please. Get into details of this, but this is a formulation that myself and Professor Charles Stewart together, which is published in a book in London in 2006. We made a formulation by compressing, collating all the learning theories, both child learning as well as adult learning theories, that how could learning take place and what facilitation could be done in context, in community. This is what is called a community of practitioners. What we simply said, that starting from observation and going to, we observe, we understand, we make some meaning, some sense out of that, we validate that, then we appropriate, and finally, we assimilate learning. That's what happens in one way or the other. If we stop at understanding level and questioning level, understanding and making meaning, then this is what is called a surface learning, that we will try to simply pass an examination. If we go beyond towards the transformative learning, it becomes a deep learning. Some of the school dropouts like Bill Gates and many others who are deep learners, they talked about a holistic transformation of human understanding and human personality and became creative. And in between, if we are simply understanding, making our own meaning and what the teacher and textbook says, then we are at the validation stage only, which is called a strategic learning, getting 100 out of 100 without any creativity to create something in the future. So this is what our education system is doing. Surface learning and strategic, we are not becoming deep learners. What in your right-hand side you will find is a formulation that the simple reading and the understanding would be memorization and reproduction. If you go a little deeper into that, what is coming into picture is reflection. That's what online learning and blended learning would do more than what happens in the classroom learning. Because when we are contiguous, face-to-face, right now in Zooming, we remember much less. When you go back, you refer to the PowerPoint and so on and so forth, then you reflect on that. You don't think. There is a difference between thinking and reflection. Sochna or gaur karna. Jab aap gaur karenge, when you reflect on that, then you develop your own meaning, then come back for a discussion and then mentoring, and that's how learning goes on, and reflection contributes to highest forms of learning. Next PowerPoint, please. The kinds of activities that we need to do, both in self-learning materials and through media, online, certainly possible at the study center. Our colleagues, Misra and Professor Gava, Dr. Misra is now in Commonwealth of Learning. Professor Gava is the director of School of Vocational Studies here. They made a formulation of activities which is now internationally accepted. People are quoting them largely. They said activities could be question-based or the reflection action-based. I have talked about reflection. So if it is more reflective, it is more experiential. Experiential means that you do something, in the process of doing, you learn. Question-based means something is given to you, you respond, whether verbally, whether pen and paper test, and so on and so forth. So the right-hand side, blue color is not happening. What is happening is the left-hand side, red color. Next, the self-assessment questions that we give in the print, audio, video, and also in open education resources, and so on and so forth. They're descriptive, multiple choice, fill in blanks, true, false, matching, diagrammatic. But all these people say that we could design through a question bank, multiple choice questions, we can test or assess higher order learning. But I have a doubt. The self-assessment questions are to facilitate one's own understanding and learning. When we go to deeper learning, there'll be more problem solving, critical thinking, and so on and so forth, which actually very rarely is happening. Next, the question is today. Now the National Education Policy is also talking about that, and we are grappling with this. When you say that you are integrating media, including 20% credit hours that the UGC says that you get from SOAM, these are all, UGC is talking about integration, but that integration has not really taken place, and people are in serious trouble insofar as my experience shows 20% credit for SOAM is concerned, which is not practically happening in this country because of lack of a system and a network and the provisions for that. We don't have time to talk about that, but I do hope that the National Education Policy, the way it is articulated about integration, the whole lot of pages that it is devoted, I do hope, expect that the government of India and the present dispensation would take it forward to really integrate media. What we at the Open University level we are doing, we are simply as a standalone supplementary integration, because media is not counted towards credit hours and media is supplementary. We could go a step ahead to make it complementary, but what is ideally expected is that we could integrate that. As your mobile integrates, I repeat, broadcasting, telecommunication, and computing, these three developments in technology, your mobile converges that. That's called a seamless integration. Can this integration be possible in teaching and learning, especially in higher education, but certainly in school sector? It is expected, it's not happening. This is what is required. So friends, next, the traditional distance teacher that you see, you all know, we all have been doing our job. We do course design, we do assignment checking, we motivate students, we follow up their progress, we conduct practicum, we do counseling, study centers, and so on and so forth. We evaluate answer scripts, and these have been the traditional functions next of a distance teacher. When we say that a learner support service, next PowerPoint please, that when we see that this is the traditional formulation of a headquarter, regional center, study center, traditional distance learning formulation. The earlier, it was a communication through regional center up to study center and the work centers, and then the learners. But after 1996 at the National Open University here, we made the media center and the schools of studies also to directly interact with students. And when we say that we are getting into either online courses through Swayambus courses or whatever, or the Moodle-based platform that we have, that we will be directly interacting with the students. All sort of centers would become support centers, including the regional support service would simply become a watchdog and and a support center. So I don't have much time to talk about this, but then I would simply say that in online learning, this will be totally become upside down when you as faculty, who is a counselor, who is a teacher, who is an assessor, who is a presenter, who is a mentor, everything in one will be directly dealing with students. Next. The type of support that we are visualizing is the informing, advising, counseling, tutoring, practical training, because training and hands-on experience, the training counselors are also important. Some of the senior counselors will also take up responsibility of conducting training themselves. Administrative problem solving, providing library resource facility, conduct of examinations, and maintenance of learners' records. Next. If we extend this to an academic support that you see, basically tuition by academic counselors and academic advice. These two are basically academic support, advice, assignment, commenting. I have written under advice because assignment and commenting is basically a teaching tool to facilitate, to provide advice to the students how to proceed, what they are doing, what is wrong in doing that, and how they could do better, which is almost getting extinct these days. There's a submission of an assignment is enough to fill up your examination form, all kinds of things that is happening, which was very serious at the beginning of the National Open University. It's not happening. So whatever the reasons, but these are the academic support that we need to strengthen. Next, the non-academic support that you see on your PowerPoint, if it is SMS service and online service provided students, that acts faster than any kinds of postal or physical or even a telephonic communication. So SMS and online, these two are today instrumentalities, which I would say should not become standalones. We should be built into our teaching, learning, assessment, and evaluation system. Next. Now let's get into a little bit of online learning next. When we get into online learning, these four kinds of things that you see on your screen, they come into picture. Now you can compare this with face-to-face and what so far I talked about distance learning. When it comes to online learning, we need a learning management system. In IGNOU, we have the Moodle learning management system, and till the last regulation came up, we were using Moodle, but now they say that you get into 4 quadrant of SOIM, which I have very less faith myself, because another PowerPoint, I will talk about that. The Moodle learning management system is somehow, this is an open source, is internationally used platform. But if you get into a proprietary platform, like when I was teaching my Fulbright in US for a semester, I was trained and I was using the WebCity. Now the WebCity is most probably the best proprietary platform so far. And second was Blackboard. Now WebCity and Blackboard, they've joined together. The company has bought Blackboard itself. So it's a very powerful platform, both WebCity and Blackboard today. With the campus edition, they are more versatile than the open source, including the Moodle. But otherwise, that the best open source, the Moodle that is available to us, and we were offering, IGNOU was offering almost 42 online programs when we were doing that. And my program, myself and Dr. Maithili, my colleague, that got the best ICT Innovation Award from the President of India because of the simple technology, simple pedagogy, and simple teaching learning process. I will, in one PowerPoint, talk about that how simple, to keep it simple, leads to higher quality. We should not mess up with design, complex design, curriculum design, as well as mess up with very complex media integration. It has to be as simple as possible. Pedagogy has to guide technology, but it's happening otherwise. Technology is guiding pedagogy. In the whole country, when there is a tremendous movement towards training programs, even before COVID and at the COVID, training programs on how to use SWAYAM, e-Gyan course, what is that, EPZ, Pathsala, and all kinds of things. They talk about 4 quadrants, restricting, as if आप हमारा हाथ पैर बांध देते हैं. आप कहें हाथ पैर बांध दें और आप swim करो, पानी में, ऐसे नहीं हो सकता. So therefore, हाथ पर खुला तो छोड़िए, स्विम कर लेंगे, स्विम अगर ना भी सिखाओगे तभी भी कर लेंगे, लेकिन हाथ पर मत बांधो भाई. So therefore, what is coming up is, and I'm very open and vocal about this, and hopefully somebody is listening. So the point is that if you develop a learning management system, which will, your selection will tell that all kinds of things that we discussed about face-to-face and distance learning, everything plus is possible, more is possible in an online learning system. Please do that. Once you do that, it's very simple, and it's free of cost. When you have a Moodle online platform, it is free of cost. It doesn't need money. It needs internet. You must have provision for internet, and you have to pay for the internet. But it's very cheap today. Broadband is much broader than before. You need a learning management system. Second is you need an instructional system built into the Moodle, including your resources, all kinds of resources, including open education resources. Interaction is very important. This interaction is missing in so-called SWAYAM 4-quadrant system. That basically is the question. I have another PowerPoint which I'm coming up. And finally, your evaluation assessment rubric. Next, please. When we talk about blended learning, we are talking about combination of these three simple, very simple. When you do a curriculum design, then you bring in teaching learning strategies, define your learning outcomes, and then build activities to translate the learning outcomes into practice, and finally give some formative and summative assessment. This is what a simple teaching learning strategy is all about. But when we talk about blending, we can divide our, I was talking about this in NCTE, but people unfortunately had a very heavy council, including UGC chairman, AICT chairman, and so on and so forth. And it was very difficult to bring in this concept. People somehow got scared by this. But this is what the National Education Policy is talking about. I'm very happy about that. It simply says we need to combine the three, which is available to us very clearly, categorically, with precise learning outcomes for each, and building activities for them, and making a provision for that, and building formative and summative assessment. Simple. And make it very clear to the students, to the parents, to the employers, to the accreditators, to everybody, to all stakeholders, make it very clear. What is that? One, self-learning. Give some responsibility to study, students study by themselves. Second, face-to-face. Face-to-face is a very important compulsory component of distance, even online learning. This is what a blending is coming in. The pure online learning is not working anymore. So therefore, whenever we have to be face-to-face, my submission is that face-to-face has to be based on more of practice, translating theory into practice. And three, actual online, which is about collaborative, for instance, collaborative projects, joint projects, interaction, discussion, portfolios, and so on and so forth. Next. So, next, please. I will skip this PowerPoint, which will be very difficult for you to understand. I will go to the next, which is talking about the open education resources. We have not explored this fully. Odisha State Open University, I understand, has the policy of OER. Unfortunately, in IGNO, we do not have the policy of OER. We have the largest repository of the world, the e-Gyan course, but we don't have the policy. Last time we deliberated, well, finally, it didn't happen. But we should be very cautious in developing this policy. And therefore, I understand IGNO has become very cautious in doing that because a lot of legal issues are involved in that. Open education resource simply says that when you do select something for using free, you have also to contribute to that free. This is the mutual understanding. But when you do that, the next box, the second box in that, which simply says that it's not that easy because open education resources need to be simple, conversational. They must provide multi-perspectives, not just one perspective, one ideology you believe and you propagate that ideology. It's not acceptable. They have to be culture, gender sensitive, and there has to be hands-on, which are contextual to be built into. When you are adopting an OER, Most probably, we need to change the hands-on in context, and we have to be very careful about plagiarism. Next PowerPoint. I will talk about plagiarism a little bit. So next PowerPoint, please. So next PowerPoint simply shows that these are the different authoritative sources that you can use free of cost to bring in open education resources, which you can access later. Next. Next is about plagiarism. This is a very serious issue. The University Grants Commission says this is a criminal activity. If teachers and students engage in plagiarism, it has defined plagiarism, and there's a regulation on plagiarism, by the way. Plagiarism is a very serious issue. You can study from this that what exactly does it mean next. But what is important is my next point. Next PowerPoint, please. What is important is my next PowerPoint, please. So what is important for me is the next, which is about self-plagiarism, which is now coming up. Self-plagiarism. No, self-plagiarism, sorry. Please go back. So self-plagiarism. Self-plagiarism is very, very serious issue. We do plagiarize ourselves, thinking that whatever we have written, if we reproduce, then sab cheez maaf hai. If you are reproducing somebody else, this is as criminal as you are reproducing yourself and taking credit for another task. It's not acceptable. Next. The University Grants Commission has brought in regulation. The next two PowerPoints talk about these two. Next, please. The next two PowerPoints talk about the UGC regulations for, next, please. UGC regulations for, next, please. The UGC regulations for institution and UGC UGC regulation for students. These two that you will study the next, please. You have to study these regulations yourself, and what I have written is the crux of the regulatory provisions. That next. Now I come to the online learning, which people talk about today. The National Education Policy is talking about this, but not much. It says, National Education Policy says, any kind of online teaching learning platform, a largely open source platform, is acceptable. And SOEM could also become the national platform, and institutions are free to design their own platform the way they would like, but connect to the national platform. What I'm distinguishing between in the next two PowerPoints is between these two kinds of MOOCs. The MOOCs that is pushed to us, including SOEM, is called an XMOOC, which has very limited applicability. It is a LMS, the learning management system. Of course, learning outcomes are there. The video lectures, there are assignments, there's a discussion forum, additional resources, and very small scale learning analytics is possible. Next. What I'm proposing is based on our colleagues, George Seaman and Stephen Downes, when they started this MOOC movement, these two guys, when they started this MOOCs movement, they called it connectivism. You Google it, you get free to study what is the theory of connectivism. Connectivism is a learning theory for 21st century digital learning. George Seaman. Excuse me. Myself and quite a few others and George Seaman, we were in Istanbul. I was also presenting a keynote with George Seaman. And when he says about connectivism, it's very simple. We have made it very complex, actually. The CMOOC, and therefore we are proposing a CMOOC, a connectivist MOOC. This edX, Coursera-based SOEM platform is not going to help us anymore. So what we are simply saying, a connectivist MOOC, if we have to design a MOOC, we have to ensure, besides a system and a network, we have to assume in teaching and learning that it has to be collaborative, engaging, interactive, and creative. And it must conform to open pedagogy, open sharing, and open educational practices. These are the two important points that I'm reading from this PowerPoint. You will study more about this next. What I'm simply saying is the kind of 1 year, next please, the kind of 1 year program that we presented, next please, the kind of 1 year program that we presented, which was a blended next PowerPoint please, which is a blended program that you see on your screen. क्या हुआ? Screen move नहीं हो रहा है. So next PowerPoint. So please. नहीं यार. Much before that. So please show the PowerPoint of the diagram. So before that. So what I'm showing you on the PowerPoint is this, that a program, which is a blended program, which based on open source without any money, except that we use the Adobe Connect to present weekly virtual classes. Adobe Connect is a very versatile platform. We could not use an open source thinking that it may not be versatile the way we have planned to do it. We used open education resources completely. We had a Google Groups interaction, but very guided, mentored interaction, which was included in the assessment strategy. There was virtual class every week or every fortnight, and everything was presented online. There was a discussion forum. E-portfolio was built into that, and every student was to design, develop, implement, and evaluate an online program based on their agriculture, training, or schooling, or university, or whatever, and finally submit a report and make presentation online. This kind of blending, which was pedagogy led, which got the national award. I simply say that one dictum, that keep it simple. If we keep it simple, it becomes very easy to deal with that. Next. The types of interaction that we see. Next PowerPoint, please. So the pedagogic strategies that we used has meaning. You can now examine this PowerPoint and see whether face-to-face this is possible. Distance learning, this is possible. Online learning, this is possible. I say online learning, it is more possible. We provided direct interaction, instruction to virtual class, presentation, interaction, guidance, and open education resources, all self-learning material, which was instructor-based. We provided learner-learner interaction with guided mentoring through Google Groups, which was constructor-based. We provided authentic tasks on the model project, which was constructor-based. We dealt with the learning nuances of open source, 2 weeks hands-on face-to-face workshop that they have to learn open source in the 2 weeks workshop face-to-face, very rigorous, which was psychomotor. Reflection on practice, we had discussion forum, which was much more creative. Self-regulation through e-portfolio. One has to examine e-portfolios to see whether self-regulation was possible or not. That's a different thing. And online 24/7 technology support. Next. Our assessment strategy, you can see that, was it possible? Yes, this is possible. This is what I have written. Our assessment strategy was computer-marked assessment, tutor-marked assessment, discussion forum assessment, interaction in the community of practice. We also assessed that face-to-face workshops, audio, video, blog, and wiki. And we also built in blog and wiki into the program. Blog for individual reflection and wiki for collaborative reflection. Online presentations all the time with examinership ensured, including external examiner. Online individual group projects, e-portfolio. These things were very simple but very important assessment strategies that we built into that, which was very simple to do in online. If you know how to do, if the students are acquainted with that, it's easy. You can compare this with face-to-face and distance learning, whether this is possible or not, and therefore decide whether we should go online. Next is the types of interaction, both synchronous and asynchronous, that you will know more. The learner-instructor interaction. Next, please. The learner-instructor interaction was possible, which was both synchronous as well as asynchronous. Next. The learner-learner interaction was possible, which was built into the curriculum, into the learning outcome, into the process and activities, and which we did, and which also including the chart group, self-help group, and so on and so forth. Supporting e-learners next. Supporting e-learners. I have written 4 kinds of support that we can provide as counselors and tutors. Information technology support, which is very important, including a help desk or a call center or an information center. Metacognitive support, we can provide web resources. There are online strategies which can develop metacognitive abilities, intellectual property, and especially community practice or community building. That as groups, self-help groups online with a mentoring support provided by the counselor. Library resources that need to be integrated into that, and online counseling, including online resources, interaction, coordination, next management. I have 2 PowerPoints, friends. This is a portfolio of an online instructor. Yes, to be now in online learning, it is only one person, just like American professor. One person who doesn't have a personal secretary, one has to type out oneself and have all the skills. And all the skills that are listed here is what is called an online teacher, tutor, trainer, counselor, everything all in one. Designer, education technologist, supporter, facilitator, advisor, co-learner, content expert, researcher, instructor, assessor, mentor, and the manager. The managing part of it, I would simply say that partly the management of the discussion forum and LMS pedagogically is done by the distance teacher. I think it is better if there is a support center, technology support center, which is available to manage this LMS, including the learning analytics of the student. The students, they are if it is a small group of students, about 100, you can handle, but if it becomes 1,000, it becomes very difficult to handle by one professor. Next, and final. The final PowerPoint, friends. This I collated from quite a few studies, including Bhavani and Spector. Mike Spector is an important professor in the US. I was making a keynote presentation in 2019 in Moscow about online teacher. And therefore, this presentation was easy for me to make for you. This final PowerPoint is a collection of all the research studies that I have presented, and it is published in another article. That the 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7 skills, competencies that we see in the PowerPoint. Professional skills, including ethical and legal standards that the professor needs to know, the tutor needs to know. Pedagogic, of course, yes. Social, that how to resolve conflict, how to organize interaction, and so on and so forth. Gender, language, and all these come into picture. Evaluation, yes. Yes, to be an administrator, including management of time, yes. Technological, considerably technological support has to be provided by the teacher. And final, counseling to provide guidance, research, conduct, interpret, integrate, and so on and so forth. Because research is becoming part of National Education Policy 2020 says that research has to become a part of vocational education skill, competence, and research. And social and life skills, 21st century skills need to start with schooling. When we come to college and university, then certainly this researching skill becomes more prominent. And the 4-year undergraduate program, 1 semester was almost built as a research skill in the University of Delhi 4-year undergraduate program. That's what the National Education Policy talks about. So friends, thank you very much. I finished my presentation. This was basically to give an idea that what all that we as tutors, whether we are a professor, a curriculum designer, because it's a team, or a counselor, or an evaluator, or an external person who is engaged with interaction with the open university, or so on and so forth. It's a teamwork, but basically when we get into blending, it becomes more of an individual person who takes up the responsibility, as I showed in the last but one PowerPoint. So thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'll be very glad to respond to.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Panda, for your point-to-point deliberation and very informative and very practical oriented informations you shared with us here, our participants on this MOOC. And I have seen many appreciations, conversations in the chat box, and a few questions which is also can be dealt in the forum by our team, definitely. However, I just wanted to take only one question because of time constraint. We have exceeded 10 minutes more in our scheduled time in the live session. I just wanted to take only one question. Question is that from Ignitus Luvinda, is writing that how can we best access internship in a curriculum where it may not have been initially embedded into the training program, which may only have been designed to have theory and practicum as core. And internship could be done after a candidate has graduated from the learning institutions. In this context, you please reflect your experiences, how your IGNU is doing in this context, reflecting towards the internship program of the students in open and distance learning system. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You see, again, we are becoming traditional in our formulation and understanding of internship. When we talk about the national education policy, it talks about formative evaluation assessment more than the summative evaluation. Internship traditionally is meant that after the curriculum is completed, then you get into a hands-on experience. That is a traditional definition of internship. In a 3-year undergraduate program or 2-year master's or 1-year diploma, internship can happen many times. Internship has to be learning outcome based. If internship is learning outcome based, internship doesn't mean 6 months. In teacher education, we said be at 6 months you have to be in the school because it's a 2-year program. It's a professional program. So that internship in the school was not necessarily after completion of B.Ed. It is almost in the second semester that one has to get into internship and then come back to study again theory, that what kind of practice they did. So it is otherwise. So internship is much before theory takes place. So friends, I would simply submit that in the curriculum, if we can design, but that design has to be practical based, that you will build an internship which will never happen, and which students will become very expensive for the students, and it will become very problematic for the institution. Let's not go for internship at all. But in the National Skill Qualification Framework simply says that internship has to take place. If it is a skill-based, competency-based vocational education program, it has to take place provided you have certain built-in industries or business enterprises around your institution or university or college. If it is not there, what is the fun of doing that internship there? Point number one. Point number two, that from time to time, based on outcome-based learning outcomes, semester-wise, even quarter-wise, that one can go for a short-term internship and come back. But depending on what is your learning outcome, whether internship has been built into as an activity. So internship is an activity. So internship traditionally is that you have to be, after these, you have to medical 4 years, then 1 year internship, engineering, then this, and law, you have to go internship. That traditional definition of internship, you read the legal education in the national education policy. It doesn't say that you have to complete this and go for an internship. The MOOC code, which is basically an internship for law, a MOOC code happens almost every alternative month in the entire 5-year law program. So therefore, internship has to be understood, to conclude, that it has to be practicable, that you could build an internship as long-term internship, provided that it is feasible. If not, then certainly you can break down internship into smaller chunks of activities and link to learning outcomes, which can be doable. My stress is doable. If it is doable, build that activity into learning outcome. It is not doable, then certainly forget about internship, by the way.
Thank you very much, Professor Panda, for your deliberation and your presentation, particularly covering. I can say here that you covered our last 3 weeks deliberations in summarizing way and entering. I hope so all our participants get benefited out of this. And again, we will put all these things into our portal so that you please put your questions over there, and our team of mentors, they will help you in this regard to overcome your doubts and queries subsequently. With these words, I just wanted to request my colleague from Odisha State Open University, Dr. Anshuman, to conclude. Dr. Anshuman.
Thank you so much, Santosh Panda sir, for accepting our invitation. And I can only vouch that your deliberation has definitely encouraged us, motivated us, and all our participants to continue with the program and look open and distance learning and online learning with a broader and open mindset, where we are not only limiting ourselves to the rudimentary things, the traditional things, as well as we should look it up from outcome-based and activity-based learning. Thank you so much, sir, for fueling our thoughts, channelizing our energy in a very positive way. And I thank all the participants for joining us today. And as a member of the faculty and as a member of the course team, I thank all the members, those who are behind the scenes. And without any further delay, let's conclude this session. Thank you everyone for your kind participation.
My regards to your Vice Chancellor, Professor Mahapatra, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I'll communicate.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar, Naik Babu. How are you?
Sir, badhiya, sir. Thank you. It was a great pleasure to hear you. Here.
Thank you. Thank you.